We just got a big end-of-year development update from Hytale that revealed even more new gameplay, their recent multiplayer game tests, and they actually gave us their full plan for 2025, including bringing people into the game next year. Let's get into it and break down all the Hytale news, starting with this gameplay clip, the second one we've had this week. See my last video for a breakdown of the first one. This video starts with a player in Zone 1 approaching a house. Instantly, you can see that there's a lot more attention to detail with this footage. The team's aim for the end of this year was to prove that their new engine can support their gameplay and creative goals, so that they can transition features from their old engine and develop new ones entirely. That milestone, which we've been talking about all year long, was a quote big success, and this clip is just one glimpse at that. You'll notice the torches on the outside are actually animated this time compared to the video from the summer update, and so it does appear good progress is being made with porting over assets and animations. The house uses a few blocks we're actually familiar with. We've got these wooden beams acting as pillars with roof blocks and even some railings in the form of stone walls. There's some barrels holding different flowers along the window, and this is also the first new engine footage that hasn't got limited render distance. You'll notice there's no fog, but unfortunately our sights are limited by the trees. Luckily, we do get a better look outside at the end of the clip when the player actually leaves the house though. You will also notice at the very start of the clip, the team shows us a branch on the floor, which is probably a little nod to the fact that there were no branches in the summer blog post footage that they showed us, as they were still being worked on. As a lot of people nitpicked this detail, this is definitely a wink from the team saying, look, we can do them. We fade into the house, I imagine, because things like door animations are not fully complete yet, and here we find a chair by a fireplace with some wooden shelves. There's a table with some books stacked on it and some bookshelves. It feels good to see some familiar assets, doesn't it? They're starting to finally return to these types of shots. We then quickly move into a room with purplish pink lighting, stained glass windows, which weirdly enough have like the same colors as the actual Windows logo, more bookshelves, although these ones are wooden rather than the stone ones, and of course some more tables and chairs. It's cool to see such a quick change in lighting actually in such a close together space. It shows that you'll really be able to customize your individual areas. The player then continues into a kitchen area where we see some cupboards and the cooking station that we're familiar with. Clearly the team have now implemented this into the new engine, so everything like cooking and food recipes will hopefully be remaining in the game. There's a candle, some half-eaten pie, and a chest. You can actually tell the team have definitely tried to spruce things up here. They've got some cute details, food, and little assets, and whilst they may seem small, like why bother doing them, I think it actually adds a lot more to shots like this. It fills the room, and I'm sure without stuff like the food and the books, people would actually have a lot more complaints about the new footage feeling empty and barren in comparison to their old stuff, which for many reasons isn't a fair comparison to make. You'll notice some quite odd animations when the player starts moving up the stairs, which the team have noted are just signs of it being a work in progress. We see some actual see-through glass windows to add alongside the more blocked off windows on the ground floor. The first floor is once again filled with some chests, both single and double, bookshelves, and a chair, along with some fences acting as a banister. We then move up to the very blue bedroom, which has two beds, table, chair, candle, and a fireplace. However, it does seem that the finished fire asset isn't in place yet in both of these cases, the candle and the fireplace. Clearly, the team is still limited in which assets they can actually use to decorate. I mean, there's only so many things you can put in the game in a few months, so we definitely catch a few things repeating here, like the bookshelves and the chests, but you've got to have some patience and give the team some credit, as they will no doubt have plenty more block types by next year. The player then exits the building the way they came. We get a few glimpses of the player's hands sort of being pushed up as the player runs downward, and whilst it clearly isn't finished, this gameplay is definitely a lot more fleshed out than I think a lot of people were expecting. This clip is also somewhat paying homage to an old clip we got of the Legacy engine a few years into that's development. Remember this video of a player walking into a house filled with decorations? We could hear the audio of the rain on the window outside. This is definitely a callback to that, although without as many assets, because obviously the new engine is still quite fresh, as we've mentioned. It hasn't nearly had as much polish as the Legacy engine had before the team had decided to switch over, and we get a better look at the house in this next screenshot, showing the surrounding area and a bit more of that render distance. It's clear that lighting has improved, but still has some ways to go. But the team are clearly aware of this and update us with some comparison shots of their old versus new lighting lighting later that we'll go through. They say that this clip shows an example of what the new engine now allows their artists and builders to achieve. It demonstrates how far they've come with completely recreating Hytale's visual identity in the new engine. There's obviously still a number of placeholders, which the team does acknowledge, including player animations and movements like the awkwardness while moving on the stairs. However, the team feel it's motivating to actually showcase these cozy elements, which are at the end of the day the core of the Hytale fantasy. They want to show that that part of the game is coming into focus once more. On an even more positive note, the team confirmed that they concluded an internal playtest recently, which had a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of players hop into a test version of the game, and this test, they say, exceeded their expectations. Quote, players jumped into new custom worlds and built together, explored the capital, queued for simple minigames, and experienced a basic version of the adventure loop. This is huge, as prior to this, any tests that took place seemed to be solely focused on one area of the game, like combat, but this one seems to have taken place across all areas of Hytale. Multiplayer, adventure mode, and creative. Imagine being one of those testers. They elaborate a bit more on what those adventure mode things were that got tested. Quote, resource gathering, crafting, and exploration in a procedurally generated open world. Again, that's great to hear, and while we've still yet to see anything related to crafting, it sounds like they've got the fundamentals pretty nailed down to a point that they can actually be tested, and it's good to see worlds are still procedurally generated. I mean, I didn't doubt that, but with how long Hytale is taking, it's always nice to get reconfirmations on certain things. Also, the way they describe it just makes the whole thing sound like it's interconnected, like they used a prototype Hytale launcher or menu or something. The players loaded up their own worlds, they joined other people's worlds, and played together for extended periods of time. They then maybe could have just hopped over to the capital or onto whatever vertical slice of adventure mode the team had prepared for them. Again, the team repeat that these experiences are not final, but they do represent meaningful progress towards rebuilding Hytale in an engine that is far more robust and future-proof, quote, using consistent processes that deliver great results. The team then confirmed they actually hit a 100-player record all on one server during their November tests. They say, we're not just playing catch-up either, we're starting to see the benefit of our new engine over the old, particularly when it comes to networking and social features. In late November, we celebrated getting 100 players online in the capital at the same time, a bar we hadn't hit in Legacy, which again is really positive news and shows they've made steps towards that most playable version of Hytale so far that they mentioned last blog post. I mean, 100 players is pretty crazy. That's almost all of their team, at least 2/3, I'm sure. So I guess for now, they currently hold the record for the highest Hytale server player count. For now, that is. The team doesn't stop there though, because the development blog post then goes into a bunch of new mobs, or should I say a redesigned look of old mobs. These are the undead, which were recently reclassified as an actual faction rather than just random skeletons for the sake of skeletons. It seems now that they're more deeply attached to the lore, and skeletons also seem to be grouped with other undead creatures such as zombies. The first mob we get to see is a skeleton miner, which is honestly so cool. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but the design is just spot on. It's quirky and cute, but I also know it would be pretty haunting if you got rushed by a few of these in a closed-off mineshaft. I also like how aspects of the mob, like its armor and equipment, are actually separate, meaning it could drop any of these for the player to use and wear. We then get a new skeleton warrior design. Well, we technically saw one of these poses during the Halloween postcard the team tweeted, but here we see it at all angles. Both a rustic and regular version of its sword can be seen, perhaps suggesting that these guys degrade over time, or maybe you can just find different aged undead, like recently deceased, which look more like zombies, or long since deceased, which are much more bony and skeletal. Back to this screenshot, we see one of these new skeleton miners within a cave, fit with lighting, stalagmites, ores, and all. The team say that this is a more temperate region, but I can't really tell where based on this screenshot, even when zooming in. It does feel quite jungle-like though from a glance. Orbis's undead have had a major revamp over the last year, both from a narrative perspective, no spoilers, and in terms of their look. They don't give us much more beyond that for the undead, just alluding to the fact that some power has intentionally raised them up, and there may even be a deeper story behind how they all passed away to begin with. Next, we are shown some before and after screenshots of colored lighting in the new and old engine, both at day and nighttime. Summarizing this, their dynamic lighting now allows for softer transitions and more striking colors during the daytime. They confirm that we will see more progress like this in terms of the lighting systems as they work through next year's rendering milestones, bringing some confidence that by next summer we'll hopefully have much better looking looking gameplay overall. Another whole minute of footage is then shown in the blog post, and while we did break this down in the last video, the team expanded a bit more on what this footage was, stating that it is an early version of their prefab library tool, and that functionality like this is a big part of how they're planning to empower creators. And yes, they mean creators as in builders, map makers, and developers, not just YouTubers. In fact, there was some confusion around the game director's comments that he made live during our charity stream, stating that they planned to bring their first creator into Hytale sometime next year, which many assumed meant a YouTube creator. But this blog post confirms otherwise. I mean, we already know they've brought YouTubers in the past anyway, and have also spoken to some this year. The team say a wide variety of creators provide them with valuable feedback on a regular basis, but this is different. They're happy to announce that their creator outreach program has been going really well and is delivering huge amounts of value to the project, and that now the team intends to bring in their first external creator team to work in the new Hytale engine in mid-2025, halfway through next year. This is so much bigger than bringing in a YouTuber for some feedback. Creator team effectively means like a development team, an existing set of map makers or game developers that have been working on other games or other platforms, experienced and ready to learn the new engine's tool. With the recent confirmation of Lua, they may even be leaning towards a team from the Roblox ecosystem, but it could also be an entirely new team who they task someone external with building. Either way, this is massive for a number of reasons. Firstly, they're not just inviting a whole team to test things, but to actually work in the engine, they say, which suggests that this team will be tasked with making the first actual non-team Hytale product, whether that's a map or assets, maybe a mod, or even a server. We know that Hytale plans to launch with the ability to create your own worlds and multiplayer spaces. They've spoken a lot about user-generated content and marketplaces for users. So when they launch, we will likely have access to a lot of these things, and in order for us to understand these things as new players, we will need examples, demos, showcases of what can be done with those tools. Obviously, with Adventure Mode or Orbis, that's a pretty big example of how to make your own RPG survival game. The Capital then is their official example of how to create a multiplayer hub that hosts mini-games and player islands. But what else do we need examples of? Smaller things like custom maps and mods, texture packs, faction servers. There's literally so many things they could task this first creator team with working on, and that thing we may very well get to check out when the game launches. The blog post specifies that this first team will be a gameplay team and they will be creating a new mini-game. Of course, it's only one team for now so that they can give their undivided support, feedback, and so they can document the process for next time, but this is definitely going to lead to Hytale inviting even more teams into the fold before launch, or perhaps during the beta, for example, to build up that catalog of external content and demos for the wider audience during launch. Look, okay, you can clearly see I'm excited about this, and as a game designer myself who has worked on multiple Minecraft marketplace teams like Nox Crew and Blockception, as well as a Roblox development firm that officially partnered with Roblox to create branded events, I just know I would love this opportunity myself, at least if I had a team of my own, which I might actually start considering. One of my top questions that I always get asked is, what do I plan to do when Hytale releases? And other than making like the craziest Hytale YouTube content and streaming the game a bunch, I also want to produce things like adventure maps, modded servers, and even more cinematic experiences. Either way, I trust Hypixel Studios, and whoever that lucky team is, I'm sure they'll be made up of some incredible talent that will make some killer content for the rest of us to use as a basis or for inspiration. The game director explains later in the blog post, quote, "It feels great to be at a point where we can start using our new engine for what it's meant for, making Hytale." Obviously, up until now, they've been pushing to actually get the engine in a good place, which I think most viewers forget is actually a big part of the process, and it's not very visual. In fact, the visuals and polish are one of the very last things to be worked on for a game. John continues, "I am proud to say that not only is our engine more capable than before, but so is our team, and we're gonna need that capability in 2025. He lays out that their plan is to bring the gameplay and content over from their legacy engine, aka porting, and jump into more playtesting as soon as possible. Apparently, at the moment, they have 5 separate experiences in various stages of testing. The first half of 2025 will see them tackle competitive and creative play, which are 2 big cornerstones of the game. You may wonder why not start with adventure mode and get that ready first, but another thing to remember is that they are making adventure mode with the very creative tools that they'll be giving us, so they need to prioritize those tools first. Also, Hytale is going to be online, so competitive features, especially combat, are a huge priority for the foreseeable future of the game long after launch. And this is something that John confirmed we'll likely get a look look at before next summer, saying on Twitter that he believes they will provide an update before the next 6 months and that he tries to give small updates all year long. The second half of the year will be spent on playtesting those cornerstones. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is going to be focused on the second two cornerstones, which is adventure and social gameplay. They're the last two pieces to the puzzle. This is also when they plan to get their creator team involved, so that team will likely have the pleasure of crafting their own minigame experience alongside the team who are making adventure mode. I wonder if that will actually be the case, or if maybe I'm assuming too much, but it does feel like a parallel that's worth noting. There was definitely a sentiment in John, the game director's recent words about needing adventure mode to feel achievable and like something that we could make ourselves as players, or well, as a creator team. It would make sense that the team continue to showcase things like the results of their playtest and continued development through the year as well. I for one would love quarterly development updates. Just start including spring and autumn to bring it up to 4 blog posts a year. You could even have one blog post focused on each cornerstone. Everyone wants a competitive blog post with combat, everyone wants a creative blog post with all the tools. Then in the second half of the year, they could tackle the adventure blog post and then the social blog post. But who knows how they'll choose to tackle updates as we edge closer to an alpha and beta period. Which, by the way, the game director did confirm during our stream was still happening. Although an alpha probably won't be public, all current information really does seem to point to that stage coming towards the end of 2025 or the start of 2026. After they've playtested the adventure mode and social features they spent the second half of the year developing. I've been showing this screenshot that they provided towards the back of the blog post, which has a lot more trees and foliage. The lighting looks to be improved, but there's no other details I can really point out here that we haven't seen before. Thank you to anyone who showed up to Thankmas this year, by the way. I was sat down for 8 hours straight and I only managed to survive thanks to this video's sponsor, FlexiSpot. FlexiSpot offers a number of quality home office products and is the go-to place for standing desks and chairs, one of which I was sent and have been using for a while now. The E7 Pro standing desk can be customized in a number of different ways and can fit with a bunch of add-ons like monitor arms and even an attachable extension block. You can adjust the height of the desk simply by using the LED touchscreen, which allows you to save 4 preset heights, or alternatively, you can use the arrows to nudge the desk up and down however much you want. It's the most popular standing desk FlexiSpot offers, basically a no-brainer for people who work in the office, and it fits all needs, can be used for years, is stable, steady, and sturdy. Honestly, the desk has fit right in with my workflow since I started using it. I used to have a real bad slouching habit, but it's helped sort that right out over the last few months, whilst keeping me more active each day. So fix your posture and sink your teeth into all their juicy offers by visit FlexiSpot's website via the link in the description. Thanks as always for watching. Check this video on screen for what YouTube thinks you'll like next. Stay safe and keep free.